What's up, everyone? Metal Levat Alex here with my next book review, having finished a new one and continuing with the dinosaur theme from the last one. I have here Raptor Red, a novel by the great Robert T. Bacher, one of my personal favorite paleontologists. And yeah, he's like one of the guys who was like who helped advise the science in the Jurassic Park movies. And he's not only one of my favorite paleontologists within the last 20 years. He's also one of the most instrumental too. Thing is, there was a time like late 1800s, early 1900s, where with the discovery of animals like Archaeopteryx and the feathered little creature from Europe, that there was clearly a connection with dinosaurs and birds. Then that theory got subsided over the years, and then during the 1960s and 70s, John Ostrom, who rest in peace, came and found Deinonychus, and he and his protege Bacher, at least I believe they were proteges, put up brought back the theory, now proven to be, much more truer to reality, that dinosaurs and birds were not only related, they were both in the same family. And one of in the family of dinosaurs responsible for this were the Dromaeosaurids, or as they're more commonly referred to as the Raptor dinosaurs, which were made popular with Jurassic Park. And this book was written roughly around the mid-1990s, I believe. Around the time it was a little after Jurassic Park, I think, was made, and Bacher actually details in an introductory preface or whatever it is, that or prologue, I think it is, yeah, where how in reality the velociraptors in Jurassic Park, they were not the actual creature. The real velociraptor is really a smaller dog-sized predator from Mongolia, and the raptors that are actually in the movies are based on Deinonychus, or at the very least upscaled ones, which Deinonychus of which was found around, I think, Montana, or somewhere in the American West. And then around the time Jurassic Park was made, they found a legit giant raptor, which they named, Utah Raptor, because that's where it was found. And Bacher and others joked, "Hey, you found the creature from the Jurassic Park movies." And they made it, but we found it. And so this book was made not long after that finding. And Utah Raptor was basically a big raptor. Not Tyrannosaurus big, but definitely bigger than, say, Arnold Schwarzenegger big, if you get my drift. In this novel, he, those movies, like Land Before Time or whatever, where it's basically the dinosaurs are the protagonist? That's basically this, although the way Bacher writes this is basically in the perspective of one female Utah raptor, and basically, through her perspective, how would she see the modern world, the world from her perspective during the Cretaceous period in which she lived. What dinosaurs she eats, what she avoids, who she chooses as a mate, the complications of being in a pack, and the benefits, and just different places that they go to. And it's very different from I think you might think of. And that's what's kind of cool about this book. It's in the perspective of an animal from that time, but kind of sort of semi-realistically it does have some rather odd moments where it's like, hey, they're having a little fun with it. So it's not a very long read, actually. It's actually took me about a month to do because, I work and I do games and all. But it's relatively large print, not very either. And it's really I enjoy the book, honestly. It's nothing too scientific. It's just a nice little, I guess you could say, dinosaur adventure story with the protagonist being the raptor in question, Raptor Red. And pretty speedy read, not terribly long compared to what I'm used to. And I really like this. He kind of goes out of his way to like add some like art to the book. Like you have Pangea during early period as it's breaking up, North America, Europe and Asia, South America, Africa, and India right here. Antarctica in Australia. And yes, and it did used to have dinosaurs on it, and it wasn't an ice ball at the time. And he just even winter time in early Cretaceous North America, because as the continents broke up, the currents changed. Weather patterns started to be more like ours. And of course, you have North America proper, showing where the journey of the book takes us. And I really liked how with the beginnings of every chapter, he has a picture of different dinosaurs and other creatures that are seen throughout. Some of them they don't really give much of a name. They kind of give them nicknames, but it's fine. Like and I also appreciate that kind of adds names to the of what's there. Nice color picture of Raptor Red and her pack mates. So yeah, obviously it's a bit out of date scientifically because now modern paleontologists and enthusiasts, we now know that these dinosaurs likely had feathers on them. So it is relatively dated. But if you can just suspend that bit of disbelief, it's you more or less have to read it for its time period. And we have a nice this persona collage of all the different dinosaurs, including our girl right there, Astrodon, Acrocanthosaurus, Gastonia, here and there, Dinosaurus. So it's extra little things who ultimately give you more of a picture as to what's in this prehistoric world. So you're not just left making it up in your head. Bakker goes out of his way to add little extra tidbits to reward the reader. Like, this is cool. I don't know if he drew those himself, though. I think somebody else did. Yeah, you don't know the Google art, but I could be wrong. Because some art styles kind of stuck in your head. You kind of start thinking, I think I know who this is. So pretty much begins with, Raptor on a hunter back with her first mate. Long story short, stuff happens and she ends up having to, survive the rest of the deal with other members, and running into different dangers and complications and trying to survive to hopefully reproduce. It's the life of a dinosaur, more or less. And there's both some harrowing stuff here as well as, lighthearted, charming fun. So it's an adventure book from a dinosaur perspective, more or less, and that's what makes it ultimately very fun. Think of it as like a docudrama in book form. If anything, it kind of reminds me of some of the stuff from BBC and Discovery Channel from at least 10 years ago. And I wouldn't mind seeing more books like this. I would love to read dinosaur novels like this from not just Bakker, but even other ones that I love very much, like Pete Larson or from the Black Hills Institute or Paul Mountain, Alberta. Both other and I would like to see something like this. Hell, I would really love to see this book, updated and re-released, with by Bakker, with feathers and stuff. Hell, I would love it if a docudrama adaptation was made of Raptor Red. Updated, of course. Add feathers here and there, and correct some things that is more accurate. But you get the gist of what I'm talking about. I would love to see something like this done again. And like I said, it reminds me very similar of many of the documentaries and docudramas that were released 10, 15 years ago, and two honestly spring to mind. Allosaurus, the Walking with Dinosaur special, which was about Big Al, a small, young adult Allosaurus. He wasn't fully grown when his fossils died, but they're like very, very complete and showing broken bones and injuries, and that his skeleton is mounted in Wyoming. And they basically, after Walking with Dinosaurs they pinched out an extra special episode featuring this Allosaurus. And then around a few years later, the Discovery Channel came out with Dinosaur Planet, which is basically 4 episodes of similar kind. And it's funny enough, despite having stegosaur plates, all 4 episodes are set in the period instead of the Jurassic or anywhere else. Funny. So yeah, that's basically what the book reminds me of. It's docudramas of these various dinosaurs that are named and have like little adventures and goings on in the world, more or less. And that's what it really reminded me of. I haven't really seen that many dinosaur documentaries as of late. The last few years, they're like overly cheap CGI'd. Like they're not even trying to make them look good. They just look bleh. And some of them have like terrible narrators. And honestly, if the narrator is annoying and tunes me out, I can't pay attention. And I also can't pay attention when some documentaries even try in the effects department. Like Walking with Dinosaurs had animatronics. Well, not as many animatronics, but the CGI for the dinosaurs was genuinely very good. And they did good as any, I guess, landscape shot, in real life landscape shots as much as possible. Whereas I look at other ones like Planet Dinosaur and a few others from the last couple of years, and I'm like, the CGI is terrible. Like, it doesn't look real. You know what I mean? I'm not convinced those actual animals right there on the screen. Nor am I convinced that that's the actual environment right there. So, for me, these docus have been in a bit of a slump age for the last several years. Still. So Raptor Red definitely reminded me of those. And I would love to see a redoing of this in that format, like those two. And it's a short but very fun read, and one to recommend, especially if you're a dinosaur holic like I am. So yeah, I give it a thumbs up. I would like Mr. Bacher to do another similar novel at some point, maybe update it if he ever feels like it. And and speak of the man himself, here's his picture right there. Very, very enthusiastic panda. I need to read his other book, Dinosaur Heresies. Need to read that one at some point. So yeah, good little dino novel. Did a lot, enjoyed it a lot. Recommend it for all intents and purposes. So yeah, that'll do it for this new book review, and I'll be back later. Peace.